Morning, everyone. Let me welcome you to Meet the Dons virtual event. I'm Anthony Danko, the CEO. So without any further ado, of course, you know the schedule. I'm going to welcome on board our first presentation from Dominic Whiterose, co-founder and CEO of High Lab. Let me just bring on Dominic. Morning, Dominic. How are you?
I'm very well, Anthony. Yourself?
Not too bad, not too bad. So let me crack on quickly. I'm sure people are bored by now. 14 virtual events of hearing my voice, so they're logging in to listen to your opportunities and all the other 6 that we have to follow. So Dominic, give us just a quick 20, 30 seconds. What led you to such an interesting company like High Labs? What's the background?
Good question. I've been a business owner for our family business for over 10 years, and do you know what? One of the biggest frustrations when you run your own business, as many of us will agree, is when you're trying to raise funding for it, and debt funding specifically. So yeah, we just saw an opportunity to try and digitize and change the way we all access debt, empower businesses.
Very interesting. So I'm going to add your presentation.
Thank you.
Here it is, Dominic. I'm going to take myself off the stage. I hand it over to you. And if there's any problems, as we discussed, I'll come back. But right now, your presentation is there and looking very stellar. Over to you, Dominic.
Thank you, Anthony. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And again, thank you, Anthony and his team at the Don. Brilliant opportunity. So, as with any opening act, I will keep this presentation brief, entertaining, and hopefully intriguing for you. And as Anthony said, my name is Dominic Whitecross. I'm the CEO and co-founder of High Labs, and we have set out, as I briefly mentioned, to redesign debt market infrastructure through the digitization and loan origination processes and secondary markets. For those that you didn't know, in the UK alone, it's estimated 67% of businesses struggle to actually find finance due to the inefficient processes, as I've already mentioned myself. And on average in the UK, it costs businesses £1.3 billion just in fees to access the finance that they do get. Whereas on the other side of the fence, for lenders, 60% of applications are very much still manual. And because of that inefficiency, it's been estimated that it costs them in £7 billion each year in lost opportunities. So as you can see from my slide, unfortunately, commercial lending does suck. Now multiply that globally, and that's quite a significant issue. So what have we done, and how is our solution going to help solve this? So quite simply, it's looking at the data and the idea of standardizing that information at the start point, and then merging that with blockchain-enabled solutions, artificial intelligence, so bringing the old infrastructure of what we have today and merging it with a digital economy will effectively allow us to remove that pain experienced by both borrowers and lenders, and even your advisors and intermediaries in the middle. So what we've done is we've broken out the whole sort of market infrastructure into 4 stages, as you can see here. So we've got our pre-loan application, which is the critical point. This is the start journey of digitization of the raw data. We've actually just deployed our digital credit broker, Credge, that's starting and kicking this process off. And that is due to fully be operational towards the very end of this year, beginning of next year. Secondly, the execution stage of development is where we will natively issue debt products through our process. And that is a very, very key point and key stage. This is yet to be done effectively or efficiently anywhere in the world. There have been some instances of people trying to achieve this, but many unfortunately have failed for various reasons. But once digitized, we can then apply the intuitive technology to map, analyze, and manage that risk like never before. So that then leads into the post-loan execution section. So giving lenders the ability to access that live data there and then to manage their treasuries as effectively as possible. And then lastly, because we've done everything that we've already suggested, we'll then have the ability to digitize these instruments in a fractionalized way and give investors an opportunity in fractionalized fixed income investments in essence. So this is our vision for the future of debt capital markets. So a lot of numbers on here, and I'll just quickly run through some of them for you. Looking at this, so borrowers, as I've said, the idea is to save as much money for them as possible in their fees. And we know that through standardization and automation, we can achieve up to 50% in their fees and reduction of those fees. And more importantly, 60% of their time. As a business owner myself, and many of you may well be as well, we all know how frustrating it is when you get distracted from your day-to-day job, because unfortunately that distraction, it stops you from achieving what you're actually setting out to do with the business. And then with regards to the opportunities, the way our marketplace works is it's one application gives those borrowers access to a whole host of lenders that meet their requirements as the data gets fed into the system automatically. With regards to lenders, again, they can save up to 50% of their resources costs in these application processes. And again, that comes down to the standardization. And again, the 60% of that time spent preparing documents, transferring from manual information to digital, and then sending that up to underwriting. And again, going through that sort of manual underwriting processes, which we've had some very interesting conversations with some leading financial institutions who have verified this. Briefly, investors, again, as I've mentioned, the idea to access fractionalized fixed income opportunities. Not everyone has millions of pounds to access investments. So what this does, it does two things. It empowers individuals to have this opportunity, but what it also does, it brings additional liquidity into the debt market infrastructure. So it has two knock-on effects. And then lastly, advisors. It's giving them the chance to actually increase and improve their story with their clients. We all know how frustrating it can be sometimes to work with advisors. As useful as they are, it can be quite a pain point. So by speeding up their processes and making it more efficient, it keeps everyone happy, but it also allows them to be more efficient at their job. And then the opportunity. As I say, I've already given you the figures for the UK alone, but if you then exasperate that and take that out globally, we've estimated it's over 100 trillion pounds on a global debt market. And through that, that's effectively 125 trillion addressable, and then serviceable from that would be circa sort of 10 trillion. And knowing that from sector to sector and being completely sector agnostic, but also thinking about our rollout strategy across multiple territories around the world, we believe this is actually quite an achievable number in the long term. And that is the 100 billion. As I've already said, we're approaching our first anniversary. We officially only launched in December last year. And in that 12 months, we have achieved an awful lot. As I say, our digital credit broker, Credge, is already gone live, and the remaining of the back digitization and standardization will be fully operational come sort of January next year. We built out the second stage as a proof of concept earlier this year as well. So we've already got quite a long way down the road in realizing how this will be operational. So now it really is a case of fine-tuning and tweaking all of these aspects, getting ready to get the regulatory licensing required, and then commercial rollout towards the end of next year. So as I mentioned, I've already introduced myself, Dominic Whitecross. I am supported by a fantastic team. So I'm supported by my co-founder, Ed Searle, who has a background in traditional finance and actually retains a consultant partnership in a Geneva-based asset management firm. Ed's background really sort of stemmed from the wealth and asset management, including the likes of Merrill Lynch, Julius Baer, and UBS. And we were also incredibly lucky to be supported by Emanuele Ragnoli. His CV is unrivaled, quite simply, in this space. He has a whole host of backgrounds with cryptology, scientific engineering, both his master's and his PhD. But on top of that, he also holds a whole load of patents against his name for the work that he's done in this space. So on the technological side, we are very much in safe hands. Beyond that, we have a fantastic team of developers, one of whom I've worked with for over 10 years, has worked for the likes of Nestle, Heineken, and is the most sought after sort of front end dev in their eyes. So if he's good enough for those brands, he's certainly good enough for us. And then on top of that, we also have a brilliant board of advisors that support us. We've got a nuclear project director, a career technologist, a very experienced CFO, and a blockchain industry specialist as well. But most importantly, they believe in us and our vision. And then lastly, what are we looking for? We are looking to work with institutions who share the vision, that sort of forward-thinking idea of looking ahead to a digital economy. Many institutions talk about wanting to achieve it, but don't necessarily understand how to get from A to B. And that's where our experience as entrepreneurs, but also understanding the technology and the business side is really what we're looking to partner with. Beyond that, we are looking for a £5 million staged investment between our pre-seed and seed stages, in the idea of having a convertible loan note at this point to then take us on this journey and really continue the good work that we're already doing. And then lastly, if you share our vision and you understand or you have a realization of using technology to improve outdated and inefficient systems, we want to work with visionaries, advisors who really get that. So I'm always happy to have those conversations. So please, if we've got time, Anthony, now for a few questions, I'll be glad to take them. But if needs be, please scan the QR code on this slide. And again, I'll be happy to answer any questions thereafter.
Brilliant. Thank you. So Dominic, we've still got a bit of time. So
Sure.
I'll leave your QR code up. I've never had that before. So I can see you're tech savvy.
Well, when you run a fintech, you've got to be slightly ahead of the game.
You really are. But before we bring on Stacey Bain, I know Stacey's her time zone.
Sure.
She's probably up really early. Give us sort of an idea. What does the ideal high net worth and ultra high net worth investor look like to High Labs? Give us like a
good question. And to be honest, I wouldn't say we've got a square hole for everyone to go into, and that's because of our ability to be industry agnostic, country agnostic to a certain degree. I think what it really boils down for me is looking for people who understand the vision of using technology. And we've heard an awful lot of buzzwords of people, throwing the phrase of tokenization, blockchain around in this space. It's all good and well, one thing throwing those buzzwords around, but actually understanding how to use it for us is key. So it's working with people who understand and share that vision.
Okay, and you also mentioned in your presentation about looking for companies who can, I guess, other banks and other. Here's a question I can see here. How would this work in relation to banks? So how can a bank sort of take up High Labs? How can they plug in? Odd question.
Good, no, very good question. And so for the sort of from taking it from high level down a little bit, in which case, so the idea is to plug into sort of original lending management systems with lenders, and the idea is where we create this standardization of data and the digitization and automation of our processes, we effectively create a funnel that feeds into their existing loan management systems. So where you have an awful lot of middle management and sort of serviceable individuals in that space, we're digitizing their roles to make that far more efficient, but at the back end connecting to the financial institutions. But then on the flip side, we're already looking at working with some private debt offices who don't have the same level of infrastructure, that they could then create their own loan management systems off the back of this as well. So it's multiple aspects to that.
Brilliant. Thank you. So before I draw on in, let me just quickly introduce Stacey Blaine. Hi, Stacey. I just wanted to let Dominic say hi to you before we let him go.
Hi, Stacey. Pleasure to meet you.
Hi, Dominic. Nice to meet you as well.
Brilliant. So Dominic, thank you so much. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to let Stacey crack on with her presentation because I don't want to keep her any later than it already is.
Good luck.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Dominic. Cheerio. Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Stacey. So let me just quickly introduce everyone. So co-founder, chief scientific officer, and acting CEO at Concarlo Therapeutics. I'm not going to ask you what time it is where you are, because I'm sure it's. Thank you so much for taking the time, Stacey, to be here. So I'm gonna give my mouth a rest. I'm gonna hand it over to you. Let me, before I share the screen, I've got your stellar presentation, your deck here. Do you want to just give us a bit of sort of background, what led you to Concarlo Therapeutics? And while you're doing that, I will add your deck.
Perfect. So I am a molecular cell biologist. I am in New York, so it is quite early where I am right now. I'm trained here at Princeton University, Columbia University, and then the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. And then I went on and started my own laboratory where I was for 20 years studying the same protein that I'd been studying at Sloan Kettering. So my one small claim to fame is I'm the world's expert on this target that we are drugging. And in the teens, we figured out how to drug this protein and started Concarlo around 2017. And I have been acting CEO, and I've actually just left my academic position after 20 years. And now I'm the full-time CEO as we march this innovative therapy to the clinic. So happy to be here today.
Wow, fantastic. So on that note, Stacey, I'm going to take myself off the stage. I hand it to you. If by any chance there's a problem with the deck, we can see it. It's perfectly positioned now. I'll come back on and notify you. But on that note, over to you, Stacey.
Perfect. So thank you, and welcome to everyone who is here at whatever time it is, wherever you are. And so I am with Concarlo Therapeutics, and we simply are trying to change outcomes for patients with drug-resistant metastatic cancer. And this is a big goal because we all know that cancer remains a very large problem, both here in the US as well as worldwide. These stats are slightly old, but you can see that cancer is one of the biggest health burdens across the world. And in particular, we're really focused on the breast cancer space. So in 2020, there were 2.3 million patients diagnosed with breast cancer worldwide. And here in the United States, about 270,000 patients. Now, most of these patients their disease was able to be controlled by current therapies, but about 25% of them went on to become metastatic, which means that their tumors left the breast, went to other places in their bodies, and became much more difficult to treat. And in fact, metastatic breast cancer is a terminal disease. So we still have a lot of work to do in this space. This is the most common cancer worldwide. Breast cancer is about 12% of all cancers that are diagnosed worldwide. So this really represents a very large health burden that we still have. In terms of breast cancer, we have, as I said, for many patients, we can control the disease with a mastectomy, a lumpectomy, and current therapy. But once the cancer becomes metastatic, present in other parts of the patient's, primarily the woman's body, it's more difficult to control. And there is a new class of drugs about 5 years old, the CDK4 inhibitors, that is used to try to control this cancer. And it does for a certain period of time. The problem is essentially all patients taking these drugs will eventually succumb to their disease. So the question really is, what do we do after these drugs in the post CDK4/6 inhibitor space, in this drug-resistant space? Now, the CDK4 inhibitor space is a very large market, about $7 billion annually. And so we predict that this will be a very large market as we extend the runway for these patients. The CDK inhibitor market, however, is expected to grow to over 40 billion in just 5 years. And the reason being that, of course, there'll be an influx of new metastatic breast cancer patients, but also these CDK4/6 drugs will be moving into other tumor types as their applicability expands. And so we want to enter this lucrative market with finally an innovative therapy that can actually increase overall survival for this patient population. And so we're really doing this by following nature's lead. And I think that's really important. We're doing what nature normally does to inhibit these targets that drive this drug-resistant state. And in particular, we're drugging this target called P27. So a little biology here, which is all cells decide to proliferate by receiving signals from what I call the oncogenic funnel. They receive signals from the top of the funnel or the cell surface that runs through the middle of the funnel and gets to the brains of the funnel. These three proteins, CDK4, CDK6, and CDK2, and they're really the regulators. They tell the cancer cell whether it should divide and grow, or alternatively, whether it should stop dividing and whether it would die. And so there's been a huge focus in our field to drug this hub for the last 40 years. The problem has been that the proteins that work in the hub, CDK2, 4, and 6, look like a lot of other proteins in the cell. So most of our attempts to drug this hub specifically has met with what we call off-target toxicity. Those drugs hit other targets in the cell and cause a lot of pain and issues for the patient so that they're not able to take the drugs for long periods of time or at the desired concentration. And so we are sort of taking a step back and saying, look, the field has been trying to drug these targets for 40 years with difficulty. What if we drug the other protein that's present in this hub, this protein called P27 here, this sort of protein that wraps around CDK4/6 and CDK2? What if we created CDK2 inhibitors? And people have sort of forgotten about P27. As I said, I've been studying P27 for over 25 years, and it is really the on-off switch for this hub. It turns CDK4/6 and CDK2 on and off. And we said, this is a perfect therapeutic target. If we can get P27 to turn CDK2/4/6 off, we could block the proliferation of these cancer cells, turn these cancer cells off, and we could deal with this drug-resistant metastatic state. Now, how does P27 turn these proteins off? I want you to think about P27 as a door, right? And so it's bound to these little green and red bubbles here. And doors are sometimes open and sometimes doors are shut. Sometimes they're on, sometimes they're off. And the transition between this on and off is the presence of this little key, this P marked here. When the door has the key, the door swings open and the CDKs are on. And when the key is missing, the door slams shut, the CDKs are off. And it's really as simple as that. So at Concarlo, we're designing drugs to bind to P27, block the key, and turn CDK2/4/6 off. And this will deal with that drug-resistant state to extend the overall survival for this large class of metastatic cancer patients. And so far, in our preclinical work, this strategy is working. This is an example. I'm a scientist, so I have to show a piece of data, but I'll walk you through it. This is a mouse that resembles a woman that had been on Ibrance or been on these drugs for a period of time. And she eventually, the drug stops working and her tumor gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And in this mouse, this tumor is almost the size of a quarter. So that's a really large tumor. If you then treat these tumors with the standard of care therapy, palbociclib, Ibrance, and we're plotting how big is the tumor at the top, you can see in navy blue, the tumor just keeps growing. But if you treat them with Concarlo's drug, IPY, you can see in the green bar, the tumor stops growing. It flattens out. And when we combine both of the drugs, Ibrance, palbociclib, plus IPY, the tumor disappears. You can see this turquoise line decreases. And it eventually goes to 0 and it stays at 0 for up to 90 days, even after we stop treating these animals. And so the tumor disappeared and the animals were essentially cancer-free. And this then translates in the bottom to the increase in overall survival. Look at this turquoise line. These animals live 4 times as long as they did when they were treated with the $7 billion standard of care therapy that's on the market. And the other big thing that's a worry in this patient population is the toxicity. That $7 billion Ibrance drug carries a lot of toxicity. Patients can only be on that drug for 3 weeks and then have to go off for 1 week, what's called a drug holiday, because the toxicity gets too intense. What happens is a cell in their body that they need to survive, called a neutrophil, it decreases. They suffer something called neutropenia. And we don't see that with our therapy, IPY, by inhibiting P27. And so here, if you're looking at the level of neutrophils in an untreated animal, you can see there's lots of neutrophils in gray. As soon as you start treating with the Ibrance, the palbociclib, the neutrophils drop to the bottom. But in the presence of IPY as a monotherapy in green, or in the combination therapy, where we saw the best response, we got tumor regression, drop to 0. You see no decrease in neutrophils. So we intend, by following nature's lead, to bring a therapy that is very differentiated to the market, much less toxicity. It actually kills tumor cells to cause tumor shrinkage, and we can actually work in that drug-resistant state where none of our competitors work. And we bring 3 decades of experience to bear on this target. And so we will start in breast cancer, but our addressable market is much larger because you can see here, these are the number of drug-resistant patients in the United States alone. So non-small cell lung cancer, over 120,000 patients that would be eligible for our therapy. And so we'll start initially in breast, and then we'll move to these other therapies, other tumor types. So currently, to get our drugs all the way to the clinic, we believe it'll take $36 million. And so right now we're raising about $14 million to reach very valuable milestones in our journey. This will be to get us to what's called an IND in the United States so we can run that first phase 1 trial. We'll make the product. We will be ready to convince the US FDA that the product is safe enough and ready to be tested in humans. And that will be the first really crucial step onto our phase 1 trial, which we will run in year 3 after raising more funds. That will demonstrate that the drug is tolerable in humans and that we have good signals of efficacy on our way to full commercialization of the product. In terms of what we want to eventually do, we do believe after that phase 1A trial, we will partner with large pharma companies such as Pfizer or Novartis to help finish the full commercialization of this product. And so I've told you a little bit about myself. I've been studying this target for over 25 years, but the rest of our leadership team is just as stellar. Arthur Klausner has 2 decades in the venture world. He serves as our executive chairman of the board, and then he was CEO of 3 biotech companies, 2 of which had exits. Dr. Krishna Elmaneni is a 20-plus year veteran of drug development, of sort of taking drugs from discovery all the way through that phase 1A. We poached her away from Turning Point Therapeutics after her drug Reptrimid had just gone to commercialization. Turning Point was purchased right before we stole Krishna away by Bristol Myers Squibb for $4.5 billion. So Krishna has 6 drugs on the market under her belt and 22 INDs. So we are well positioned to finish our journey. Sean and Charlene run operations and finance respectively. And so I also just want to point out our advisory board. We have world-class advisors. Gary Schwartz, Neil Rosen, and Jeff Shapiro run the clinical trials at the Case Western Cancer Center, Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, and the Dana-Farber in Boston. And so they are world leaders and they are ready to test our drug in humans. Yun and Dan Heller are biomedical engineers. Bob is our medicinal chemist. Andy discovered P27, so I've known Andy for 25 years. He's really the grandfather of this story. And Karen Paz has deep experience in biomarkers. Our business advisory board, I'd say the big takeaway message is look at their logos. We have decades and decades of experience. And so I'm happy to tell you more. I'd love to set up a meeting with anyone that's interested, but we will bring an innovative therapy with serious differentiators to a very lucrative market, $40 billion annually. And we have done everything to date on a very lean raise, only about $10 million. So our cap table is quite tight. And we're looking for investors and partners to help transform the drug-resistant breast cancer space. So I think we might have some questions, have some time, and I'm happy to take some questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Stacey. I was just writing to my colleague Mark, who you know. Wow, you're really good at this. You really deliver a very informative presentation. And quick question again. Always the same question. I'm sure this person has asked this. What? Okay, yeah. Going back to the chart. You know the rat chart. Yeah. Right. And you've got the lower on the top. You've got the lower line. When you said the tumor in the rat, the tumor actually ceased to exist. The question was, did the tumor resurrect itself after the? Okay, understood.
Yeah, I got the question. So you're basically asking that you're looking at this turquoise line and it goes all the way to zero. The tumor disappeared, right? So this animal was cancer-free. And after about 85 days, you see a little bit of rebound up here. Well, we stopped dosing these animals with drug at day 35. That is clearly not something that we would do in the human situation. We just wanted to see how long would the tumor, say, disappeared, so to speak. And so this is not resistant tumor. This is just tumor, a few tumor cells that we didn't eradicate that were still persisted in the animal, but we couldn't measure it. Right? We didn't see it. And that's really the problem with metastatic disease, is that sometimes it disappears. It looks like the patient is cancer-free, but there's a few difficult cancer cells persisting. And if you don't keep therapy on, they can make a rebound and they can come back. And so the beauty of having a therapy that has very little toxicity was it will enable us to keep that patient on drug continuously. And so in this situation, after day 35, we would transition to what's called maintenance therapy. Dose the patient maybe every 3 weeks or once a month, just to make sure that that tumor really stays at bay for a period of time. But that's a great question, and clearly someone paying very attention to these curves. And so we do believe that we would extend the overall survival of these animals even more if we continue dosing the patients.
Thank you. Next question. What would happen? What would happen to the business model if you didn't get the approval? Is there a pivot? Is there?
So if we didn't get approval here for the IND, you mean?
Yes.
So we have multiple drugs in our pipeline, which I didn't really talk about. They're all against P27. And so we have, the way we think about it is we have a backup program. We have multiple shots on goal against the same target. And we also might have a replacement. If the secondary asset proves to be better along the way, then we would substitute that in. But the first product, our lead, that is about 18 months, we think, from our first patient in the clinical trial. That is a biologic product. So we have done a lot of preclinical testing to understand that product. So we're fairly confident that we will be able to achieve that IND status and move into that phase 1 trial with the first product, at which time we'll validate the concept of P27 targeting. We're the first company to ever go after P27, even though it's probably the most well-validated pathway in oncology. This is the holy grail target. Everyone has been trying to drug CDK2/4/6. We just have an innovative, following nature's lead way to do it.
Okay, fantastic. It seems like the questions asked, someone is very, very clearly looking at this very, very closely. So again, this is a standard question from us. What did your past investors look like, in the sense of were they VCs, high net worth? Which
So
individual?
we've only raised $10 million, which is a pretty lean fundraise. We raised that in several tranches, and we raised only from angels, high net worth individuals, and family offices. We have not raised any VC money yet. So we are trying to continue down that stream. We're looking for investors that want to transform cancer and also recognize that therapeutics and oncology, end up being billion-dollar products. So this is a very large market begging for innovation, and we have sort of pre-tested the waters, so to speak, with a lot of pharma partners. They're very interested to see what happens with our product. So we do believe that those would be our ultimate partners, help us with the ultimate exit after that phase 1A trial.
Understood. Brilliant. So on that note, Stacey, I'm gonna let you go. Thank you so much.
And please, anyone interested, you know how to reach me through Anthony or Mark, and I'd love to continue the conversation.
No problem. We're definitely gonna follow up, as you know. Let me just, our next guest, unfortunately, being a virtual event, sometimes people's logins are not working. So our next guest is actually John Ashley. I'm going to let John just say hi to you, Stacey, so we can kind of, Hi, John. Let me just quickly introduce you to Stacey Blaine, and then I'll let
Hello, John.
Hi, Stacey. Pleasure to meet you.
Nice meeting you, too.
Brilliant. I wanted to bring the Americans together.
Yeah, it's so early where we are.
Stacey, thank you so much, Stacey. It's been a real pleasure. I'll let you go. And
yes.
Again, looking forward to our ongoing cooperation. Thanks a lot, Carlo.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Take care. Thank you, Stacey. Bye. Bye-bye. What a lovely lady. Right, let me just give me one sec, John. Welcome, John. Much appreciated. So, let me just quickly give everyone an overview. As I said, we have some technical issues with our next presentation, which was meant to be Thomas. So he's going to come in later. So, John Ashley, Chief Executive Officer of Actus Surgical over there in the States. He's been a great gentleman. He's well prepared, as always the Americans are, and he's going to jump into the slot. So on that note, John, can you give us a bit of a background on yourself? Because obviously, the reason for this event as well, Meet the Dons. We kind of want to know a bit more about the people running the companies. So give us a bit of background on yourself, John, and then I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate it. Yeah, my name is John Ashley. I am the CEO and co-founder of Actus Surgical. Actus is a medical device company, and I've been in this industry for over 30 years. I've worked for both large Fortune 500 companies such as Medtronic, Abbott, and Stryker, but my majority of my time has been focused on creating and growing very early stage startup companies such as Actus, taking them from the very early concepts through product development, clinical trials and regulatory approval, and then commercializing the product and exiting. I've been involved in 7 or 8 different startups that have exited, both in the spine space, which is where Actus is, and in cardiology. All told, the startups that I have been a part of have returned to investors over $1.35 billion to investors over the last 25 years.
Brilliant. So on that note, I'll hand it over to you. If you need to share a presentation, by all means, you can do that now. And of course, if there's a problem with the presentation, John, I'll come back. But you're welcome to share it now. So. Yeah, if you click on the top right, there's a share.
Yeah, I see the share. Okay. Is that displaying now?
I've got it. There it is.
Fantastic. Thank you, Anthony.
No problem. Over to you.
Actus Surgical is focused on solving the problem of severe children's scoliosis. This is a very challenging problem with over 1 million kids in the US diagnosed annually and several more million around the world. It's a progressive disease with the spine curvature growing larger and larger over time as these children grow up. The first line of treatment is prescribing an external brace for these kids to wear. That's this image right in the middle of the screen. About 150,000 kids in the US, almost 500,000 worldwide, get these uncomfortable and unsightly appliances prescribed. We're talking young adolescent children, mostly girls, and they don't like the way these look. They're not comfortable, and there's very low compliance. This isn't a real solution for scoliosis. It's more like a Band-Aid. If the child wears them all the time, they can prevent the progression of the disease, but it doesn't straighten out their spine. As a result, about 60,000 in the US, well over 100,000 worldwide, have fusion surgery to straighten their spine. Those are these x-rays here. You can see the curve of the spine in the first x-ray, and it's mostly straightened in the second. But in order to do that, the child has to be opened up with an incision from their neck down to their hips. 2 solid titanium rods and dozens of screws are placed in their spine to straighten it up and to fuse it, lock it into place. This prevents the spine from growing anymore. It completely reduces all the physical activity sports that these kids can participate in. It's not a great solution. It's more like a sledgehammer. More recently, a process called vertebral body tethering, or VBT, has been tried. That's this image down here where a flexible cord is attached to one side of the spine and it's tensioned to straighten it. While this preserves a lot of the spine's motion, it doesn't give all the solutions to the children that these pediatric spine surgeons want, which is preserving that motion, but also allowing that spine to continue to grow and allowing for ongoing non-invasive adjustments of that implant to provide a therapy that each individual child needs. That's what Octus Surgical does. We have a product shown here that uses screws that are attached to the convex side of the spine. We thread a flexible, very strong, durable tether through that, attach it at the top, but wrap the tether at the bottom around a magnetic gearbox. It's this inset image. From outside the body, we can access that gearbox magnetically and access it to change the tension or the length of the tether. So that way we can modify it after the surgery multiple times over and over again and provide a personalized medical solution to every child. We've done this in preclinical studies in pigs. These x-rays show the implant in the pig spine. And after implanting this, we came back multiple times and used the external magnetic controller. That's this image here with the white and blue handheld device to, from the outside of the animal, adjust the tension by magnetically coupling with the implant. We did it multiple times over the course of the study. We were able to either increase tension and curve the spine further or decrease it to allow the spine to straighten it out. In each case, our system remained functional and intact throughout the study. These animals doubled in size, and our product did what we intended it to do. This is a very large market opportunity. We're focused right now on the US market, which is the largest. And in the US, 20,000 kids every year get surgery to address their spine curvature. That's our beachhead market. Over $700 million in the US right now. On top of that, most of these children avoid the surgery because they're still growing and they want to be able to fully mature. And after they've grown up, they're in their late teens, early 20s, then they want this issue corrected. And so they have a surgery at that point, a fusion surgery. That's our secondary market that adds another 1.4 billion, creating over a $2 billion market just in the US alone. On top of these two existing markets that today are getting fusion surgery, we have the ability to expand this market to younger patients and patients with less severe curves. These children are not getting surgery today because of how brutal it is, but they'd like an option, and our key opinion leaders would believe our product could be an option for them. That expands the market beyond what's being done today. All told, that creates over a $5 billion market in the US, 10 billion worldwide. We've got strong patent protection on our product. We have issued patents in the US, Japan, China, and we had claims recently allowed in Europe, so that patent will issue next month. We have additional applications on top of what we've already received. And then beyond covering our adjustable tether product, we've licensed patents from UCSF in San Francisco for a second product, which we could use for adding to our portfolio. This is a dynamic, shifting market landscape. Although fusion is the gold standard, things are moving towards this motion preservation with tethers. Right now, there are 2 companies with tether products on the market, but they're both static tethers that can be implanted and tensioned during surgery, but they can't be adjusted after the initial surgery, except through putting the child through a second, third, or fourth surgery to access the device and change it. ZimV, which is a spin out of Zimmer, is the first company in this market. They repurposed an old product to use it for adolescent scoliosis. And the clinical literature shows that they have 20% of their cases, the tether breaking, and another 15%, the spine overcorrects and starts curving in the other direction. Both of those failures require a reoperation for the child. As they have no IP protection, Globus Medical just earlier this year came out with a knockoff of that system and have approval and are in the market now. It's an identical system that is also static and can't be adjusted without additional surgeries. So when you compare those 2 products and the legacy fusion rods that many companies have to Octus Surgical, you can see the benefits we bring to the marketplace. In addition to being a less invasive surgery that the child can recover from quicker and preserving the motion of that spine, we have a higher strength tether and a tether that has got much more durability than either ZimV or Globus's product. We allow for this non-invasive adjustability. Our product can grow with the child, so the child can get their full torso length, and we have the ability to expand the patient pool. We have a straightforward FDA pathway with this, and I have established a strong relationship with them. We've had 3 different pre-sub meetings with the FDA where we've gone over all the testing protocols and the clinical pathway and gotten their feedback. On top of that, we've received breakthrough device designation with them. That expedites our reviews with them and will take over a year off of our path to regulatory approval and save on the burn rate and make this a more capital efficient enterprise. After we get our initial regulatory clearance from the FDA, we'll continue to collect post-market data and expand into the secondary and tertiary markets I spoke of earlier. There's an existing reimbursement code for this procedure, and payments for the implant are very high, from $30,000 to $50,000. This is a profitable surgery for hospitals to do. They take in $100,000, $150,000, and the companies get paid well for these products. This is the same kind of payment that is occurring for fusion products and the static tethers. We have a very low cost of goods, which creates a profitable product for us. And ZimV, who got into this market first, has been expanding the coverage for this vertebral body tethering procedure They've never got a non-coverage decision, and it's very important that all the decisions they get have included the language that these payers consider vertebral body tethering to be medically necessary. For commercialization, we'll do what we've done in the past, which is hiring an internal sales and market management team and going to market with a combination of both direct sales reps in key territories and distributor contracts to cover the rest of the United States. All of our outside U.S. distribution will be through partnering with a strategic, which we also have done in the past and set up those contracts. These sales get driven through the podium presentations of our clinical data and publications. And we would expect profitability within 3 years of launch at a $45 million run rate. It's important to note that this isn't an educational sale. The marketplace is already familiar with tethers, and they're also familiar with this non-invasive magnetic adjustability, as several years ago, Globus entered the market with a magnetically adjustable fusion rod system. The sales cycle for this is very predictable. Most of these procedures occur in the summer and holiday months when these children are out of school and have longer time to recover. Here are our first 5 targeted customers. This is based on their volumes of doing these surgeries, plus our already existing relationships with surgeons at these centers. We'll add others as sales ramp up, and we expect about 2 years of sales to capture surgeon adoption and use rates. On top of this, we have other traction, including having several spine surgeons on our investor group and having ongoing discussions with strategics. We've spoken with NuVasive, Stryker, and Medtronic, who reached out directly to us. These are important discussions to establish relationships with these corporations, because ultimately one of them will be acquiring the company. We've also been named a current UC Berkeley SkyDeck, a cohort company that's an accelerator, as well as previously being in the UCSF Rosenman Accelerator. We're a portfolio company of a Seattle incubator called IntuitiveX, which focuses on orthopedic companies. In 2020, we were named the best new spine technology by Orthopedics This Week magazine, and we've won numerous pitch competitions that have come with non-dilutive monetary awards. This is a timeline of the company. We've accomplished everything I've shared today with you on just a $350,000 pre-seed friends and family round, as well as $250,000 in awards. We're currently raising a $3 million seed round to complete the last 10% of our product development, do all the bench testing that we need to submit to the FDA, and send that information in to get our investigational device exemption, or IDE, approved by them to start clinical trials. At that point, about a year from now, we'll raise a Series A, a $12 million round to fund the clinical trial. Once that's completed, we'll submit the data for approval, and we believe in 2027 we could get an exit, or if we needed to, we'll raise a Series B to commercialize the product. These are the terms of our current raise. It's a convertible note with 10% interest and a 20% discount on conversion and a $9 million cap. Here's how we'll use the funds, primarily for R&D and our bench testing, as well as our preclinical study. Comparables in this market include Ellipse Technologies and ApiFix. They both are implantable scoliosis products for children. Ellipse was bought for $410 million by NuVasive, and that's a magnetically adjustable growing rod. ApiFix is also a rod, an implantable rod that expands incrementally as the child grows. It's not controlled by the surgeon. But in both cases, these companies have had poor performance post-acquisition, as this market is shifting away from these rods that are rigid and limit the mobility of the spine towards the tethers that allow motion preservation. We believe, as I said earlier, an exit is likely when we have FDA clearance. We've sold another orthopedic company in the past that just had FDA clearance and no sales because it was going into an emerging market and we had a disruptive technology, just like we do here with Octus Surgical. There are already 2 companies in the market today showing that this is attractive, and we have a superior technology to either of those. All of these companies here were potential acquirers, setting up an auctions scenario for Octus. If we don't get an attractive offer with FDA clearance, we'll raise a Series B, and with commercial traction, we warrant a much higher valuation. So in either case, we see this as a 10x plus return to seed investors, whether we raise a Series A or an A and a B. We've got a very experienced management team. I've given you my background, and here are some of the startups that I've led and have exited. Murali Kadaba and Damien Shulock worked with me directly as we were 3 of the first 4 employees at a previous spine startup called Coalign Innovations. Coalign developed the world's first vertically expandable interbody fusion cage that was used for adult low back surgeries. And after 2 rounds of funding, we sold that company to Stryker for a 16x multiple. On top of that, Murali previously was the co-founder and vice president at Vertiflex, another spine startup that was acquired by Boston Scientific. He previously had worked for Stryker and Howe Medical as head of their worldwide clinical research arms. Damien Shulock, our VP of R&D, has over 20 years in this industry where he's focused on implantable devices for spine, orthopedics, and other indications. And our 4th co-founder is Dylan Quat. He is an R&D engineer with 10 plus years in this industry, and his expertise is in this magnetic products and magnetic adjustability, which he's developed multiple devices. We've got a really strong clinical advisory team. The 3 doctors at the top of the slide all do pediatric scoliosis surgeries as part of their weekly practice. They were pioneers in this vertebral body tethering space, and it was actually conversations with them where we were asking what they needed that led to our development of this product. They were interested in an adjustable tether, and we took that, developed our product, filed our patents, and opened up the company. As well, Dr. Anand and Dennis Crandall are both spine surgeries. They don't do pediatric cases, but they're thought leaders in this area, and they were part of our successful Coalign team. And the final member is Stephen Hochschuler. He's a co-founder of the Texas Back Institute, one of the foremost surgical centers for spine in the U.S., and he's been a business advisor to several different spine startups over the years. So in summary, Octus Surgical is developing a novel, disruptive technology for motion preservation and non-invasive adjustability in the spine market. Nobody's ever had a product like that. And it's an area where not only do the pediatric surgeons, but these children who are suffering and their parents are looking for this type of a treatment option. And our team has a track record of bringing novel, innovative spine technology to the market and providing a successful exit. We're seeking a $3 million seed round, and we'd love you to join us on this mission to address these problems and provide a normal childhood and ongoing life for these kids. Thank you so much. Happy to take any questions, Anthony.
Sorry about that, guys. It's my age. I was talking to myself without being added on. Before I bring on Thomas, John, Thomas is the next presentation from APG Capital. Just want to say very quickly, John, your presentation, what I found was amazing, and looking at what you've achieved in the past, how you took all these companies to the exit, was your sales. Your sales was like, it's spot on. I'm looking at it thinking like, he has to be 100% sure that that your treatment's going to get passed by the FDA, because your sales funnel, how you're going to do it, how you're going to achieve it, how you're going to execute it. And I've been doing this is the 14th virtual event. I've never seen such a pinpoint delivery and execution of the next process after the FDA. It's usually we're going to get the FDA, and as an investor, and as we have investors here as well, and we then send this, as you know, John, to investors. It's really impressive to see, how you broke down exactly how you foresee to generate the sales, right? Because there's one thing getting a company past the FDA, and of course the FDA is an amazing institution, but then how do you deliver that and turn that for the investor, because we're here, right, looking for investment, right? How do you then deliver and turn that into a workable, scalable business which generates revenue? John, wow, very
Yeah,
good.
thank you so much, Anthony. Yes, we've done this before. As you say, it's one thing to get a product like this to the market, but then again, it's another heavy lift to grow a business in the market. But we've done it before. We understand the challenges there, and it's great to be working with an experienced team, so that it's not just something you're thinking about, but you've done it before, and we've done it before together, so we know each other's strengths and where we can count on different contributors, and where you can need to lean in to collaborate with each other. So we're very excited to be going down this path again with a really impactful product.
John, it's been a real pleasure. I'll let you go. I know you're over in the States. Thank you so much for taking the time, and I'll let Thomas quickly say an early good morning to you, and then I'll lead on to Thomas. So Thomas, I'll let you say a very early morning to John, and then I'll let him go.
Good morning, John. Nice to be introduced to you.
Good morning. Pleasure to meet you as well. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
John, thank you so much. Take care, John. Have a good rest of the day. Bye. Thomas, finally, how are you? Good?
Yeah, good, Anthony. Very good.
Brilliant,
A few technical issues there.
No, it happens. Not a problem. It happens. It happens all the time. Actually, so far, fingers crossed, and we are live. This has been one of the most non-problematical logging in virtual event we've ever had. Usually, we get untold emails. We can't log in because, unfortunately, the platform we use is not our platform, and they have a set way of logging in. But so far, it's been pretty good. So again, Thomas, as you probably know, as you probably heard, the reason for this virtual event is for the audience, investors, and sophisticated individuals, and high net worth and ultra high net worth individuals, and the ones who we also going to share this live recording with, to get a bit more about yourself. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Thomas, and then what led you to APG Capital, and then I'll lead it over to you to do your presentation on APG. So what led Thomas to this field in real estate?
So yeah, I started in real estate very, very young. I was sort of 17, 18. My family are not from a sort of a business or property background. And we started buying sort of small 2-3 bedroom houses and just carried on from there. So when I was a lot younger, my boyhood hero was Robbie Fowler, the footballer, and he was
Wait 1 sec. We actually used to do some stuff with Robbie.
Okay.
And of course, Robbie, his claim to fame, apart from being one of the best ever at Liverpool, right, was he invested his money into ex-council estate, really small dwellings, and he bought hundreds of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that was probably part of the inspiration. So I followed him growing up, and then he started. He was famous for. I think he had a song about buying a lot of houses. So maybe that was part of the inspiration. But from there, we started buying small houses, getting into the development side, and to the point where we are today, where we have, sort of 30, 40 million pounds worth of projects on the go. So yeah, it's been a good journey, which I'll hopefully guide you through in the presentation.
All right, brilliant. I mean, just to let you know, my background, of course, is in real estate as well. So that's one of the reasons. And of course, being a Brit, it's just like real pleasure working with another Brit. And you're a Liverpool fan. I'm not. I'm a QPR, but I can respect Liverpool. So on that note, do you want to add your presentation, Thomas?
Yeah, so I've got this present button at the bottom. Is this what I click?
Yeah,
Click, is it?
click that, or present or share.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we can't see what you see. So
So I'm going to share my screen.
Yep. Make sure there's nothing. Just we've had cases where people share their screen, and it was like, I think you should have checked your screen before you share.
Can you see a presentation?
No. Click.
Oh.
No. Click share. Just click share the screen. So go to your presentation, click share the screen, and then it will jump up. Yep, there it is. There it is, buddy. Let me bring it on. Just loading. Okay, over to you.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Okay, so very quickly, an introduction into myself. I'm Thomas Muir. I'm the MD of APG Capital. Well, we are based in Liverpool. We do operate throughout the Northwest, and I've been in property for coming up to 15 years now, in various different ways. So I started life in the Royal Navy. I've done a few years in that, traveling the world. But when I was away, I used to save up my money and buy these type of properties, 2-3 bedroom houses around Liverpool. I started done various entrepreneurial startups right up until the age of about 25, trying different things. One of our biggest successes was a juice company that we sold into Ocado, Whole Foods, those type of places, and we set that up from literally a kitchen table business into a national operation, making about 3,000 drinks a day. So that was my first sort of entrepreneurial success. But all the time we were investing in real estate. Anytime there was any spare money knocking about, we'd buy a property. And from 2016 onwards, I've just been fully focused on property, acquiring assets, and developing real estate. To give you a little bit of an overview on the scale that APG Capital operates on, we've been involved in 500 unit transactions since 2016. We've delivered £20 million worth of GDV. Just to put that into context, in the Northwest, your average apartment value is probably around 125, 150,000. And we've got £30 million worth of GDV, which is currently on site or in planning. A key part of our business is investors, and I'll come on to that a little bit later, but we've currently managed over £5 million worth of private investor funding successfully. And that's my main role in the business today. Accelerate Property Group is the overarching asset holding company. APG Capital is our development brand, and APG Build is our construction company. We operate an in-house construction company. It gives us full control over the project and allows us to be a little bit more nimble in process and cost savings, and and managing programs as they move and flow throughout a project. Our overall business is being a portfolio landlord. We've got over 100 residential apartments, but our current sort of business model and business trajectory is on developing assets and selling them to investment funds, investment consortiums, etc. So we do operate mainly in Liverpool, but we've got a few schemes in out the Northwest and one in Manchester, which I'm heading to after this talk. Got a strong team within the construction team. A lot of them have been handpicked from tier 1 construction companies. So we have our own in-house contracts manager, quantity surveyor, finance controller, and a lady who takes care of all of our manages our assets. say they've all been took from the big boys such as Bellway, Hankinson Group and Barnfield Construction to give us that real experience in the development game. Our process is relatively simple. We identify a land or buildings which suits our criteria. We will usually buy with planning, or we will secure the site with an option to buy once we have achieved planning. For those of you who don't know, the planning process in the UK is quite a slow process, so we prefer to put our money forward once that consent is in place. We'll obtain funding from senior lenders such as Hampshire Trust Bank and Shawbrook, and then we will input some of our funds, and the balance we will obtain from investors, and we'll work, and I'll show you how that works shortly. We'll then carry out the construction, and early on in the process we will identify a buyer. We work with a couple of different partners who buy wholesale stock. Our vision is to deliver 1,000 units in the next 5 years. Last year we done 100 units. Next year we should hit just under 200 units, and that pipeline is growing to deliver that demand. And ultimately, we still believe in the UK property market. There's a shortage of housing, and there's a demand for rental properties, which is backed up by some of the stats I'll show you shortly. These are typical sort of mid-tier projects that we deliver. 7 apartments, 18 apartments, 12 apartments. We take on some challenging projects such as grade 1 listed buildings, conservation area properties, and we do have a real passion for restoring old buildings and increasing footprint through new build. So I think it's very important that we leave a legacy in terms of bringing old buildings back to life, because there's plenty of them in the UK and in the Northwest that can be put back into community for the use. So we do prefer restoration. An example of a project that we completed last year with 28 units called Park Terrace. It was in the north of Liverpool. There was a 5 million GDV. It took us 18 months to complete. It was actually sold to a sports investment consortium based in London, and it's a fantastic asset for them to rent out. And the equity investors come into the project on a fixed income loan note basis, which I will detail next. There's some pictures there of what it looked like before we took over. There was 2 contractors who'd actually gone bankrupt before us on this. And we managed to take it over and deliver the scheme successfully. We delivered a good rental specification that's affordable, and a nice finish and a nice place for people to live. Here's highlight summary of that deal. I won't go through all of the numbers, but the key number for us is profit on cost. We typically target a 25% profit on cost. At the moment, we've hired that up to 30%. Just to reflect where we are as an economy and as a property market. But for the investor side, the investors inputted 800,000 into that deal. They were paid an annual rate of 15%. That was a 12-month loan term because the project had already started, and the investor interest that we paid out on that was 120,000. Again, this is another project that we recently completed, sold to an investment fund. 14 units, 2.8 million in value. It took us 12 months to complete the project. It took us 12 months before to get the planning. And again, sold to an investment consortium based in Israel. And equity was invested on a fixed income loan note from one of our investor groups. And you can see some of the derelict building turned into a place where people like to live. Got a couple of projects on site at the moment, 18 units in South Liverpool. That's in the process of being sold to a Hong Kong investment consortium. The old Legion building, again, a little bit of demolition and restoration. That'll be fantastic once it's put back into the community. This is 7 units, which was in the previous slide. Again, an old derelict building being restored. We'd actually knocked that part of it down, and that's currently on site up to first fix level, and that should be sold in to the investors in the middle of next year. How we fund developments is via senior debt will come in from the bank. They'll generally give us a net of 55%. We top up 10% of our own funds, and then in equity investors will cover the balancing portion. They receive a second charge for that. I'll come on to rates and stuff in a minute. This is a typical term sheet for our currently how we operate. We very much work at the moment with sort of retail investors, small pension holders who invest tickets. So the minimum there is 25,000. They typically invest 100 to 200,000, and generally 4 or 5 investors would take up a 600, 700,000 pounds allocation. And we run 4 to 5 projects of these a year. We continue to offer this current model, a 15% fixed interest rate per annum, second charge. We also give a personal guarantee. The length of the terms are typically 12 to 18 months. We service interest on a quarterly basis. We use the funds to purchase the property on day one, and the sale proceeds are then how the investor is repaid. That is our current model, and that is what we currently advertise. And we're raising it on a project now. But we are also looking for somebody who knows this game, who's interested in this type of projects, who might be able to come in and fund the whole deal, or fund 2 or 3, 4 deals, and create more of an equity partnership. We're running through our process. We'll identify a project, we'll bring the bank in, we'll put our funds in, we'll bring investors in, we'll purchase the site, we'll carry out the building works, we'll bring our buyer in early, we'll get a letter of intent and exchange. We regularly update through our risk monitoring surveyor. We pay the interest quarterly, project is completed once the sales and the capital is returned. In terms of security for our current investors, we have the senior lender taking the first charge over the asset. The investor takes a second charge over the asset via a security trustee. An investor will sign a loan with the borrower as the SPV, but I also personally guarantee the investor capital. Anyone who's been involved in property development will know that it can be a challenging business that's got risks, and it's important to highlight them and how we mitigate them. Through project delays, project cost overrun, council delays, sales values, and sales the market. And we use a number of different methods to ensure that it's a calculated risk when we enter the project. A current project that we are raising funds for is a 47-unit former primary school. We're converting it into 47 residential apartments. We've got an investor who is ready to sign an agreed heads of terms to purchase the whole site. It's going to be the finished spec, and a financial summary on that is got a 32% profit on cost. We're raising 800,000 at an annual rate of 15% per annum, which would be 22.5% after the 18 months. And there's the investor cash flow on based on the minimum. Here we are as a general market. The economy and property market is a bit flatlined in the UK, but the Savills report still shows a positive over a 5-year period. Property is a long-term game, and especially in the northwest is an area where investors are still really keen to buy stock. And as a general, house price direction over a period of time, our opinion is that UK housing will always be on a growth trajectory. The population's growing, and the UK do not build enough houses. In fact, they've recently scrapped the target because they weren't meeting it. But the price of a property in the northwest is considerably less than buying in London. And from a yield-based investor, so in our case, the end buyer, they're moving away from the sort of south to look at better higher yielding property in the northwest. Rental growth over the last 18 months has been quite extraordinary, going up 5% on an annual basis in some areas. Liverpool as itself is currently undergoing a £14 billion regeneration. There's a number of large infrastructure changes going on, including the rail network, including Everton Football Club's new stadium in the city centre, and Liverpool Waters, which is transforming and using the dockyards. And some key features of our projects and our offering is a 15% return. When APG Capital is not FCA regulated, but we do have an FCA regulated trustee who manages the investor administration. We've got a strong track record in delivering projects. Contact is direct with me. Minimum investment term is of 18 months, and we service interest on a quarterly basis. So I'll leave that there. That's just a quick overview of who we are, the projects that we do. Investments are on a project by project basis. We're not a fund or a bond, and it's a good alternative investment for those looking to participate in property projects without the headaches.
Thank you, Thomas. Before I move on to the next presentation, which is Pleco Therapeutics, and I can see Ivo, the CEO, sitting back there very patiently. He wants to wave his finger at me and say, "Get on with it, Anthony." But
I'm also looking for a new home. So with full interest, I was watching the presentation.
And just before I let you go, Thomas, first of all, and I mean this genuinely, first of all, I had no idea that you were in the services. So I want to, on behalf of the company as a British entity, I want to say thank you so much.
Thank you.
You know, for people who join the services, especially in the UK, it's no joke. So, and that, of course, for me, knowing that you're in the Royal Navy, it's because that's like because I heard it and I saw the picture. And I'm like, that's like the number one trust element. Yeah, the guy's in the Royal Navy. He served his Queen at the time, now the King. You left. You came from, I guess, a working class background. You started a business. You scaled it with the beverage business. You then went into real estate. You're now really doing really well with the real estate. And let everybody know how, just before I let you go, how we met Thomas. And another thing, Thomas, you know, Hitesh, the billionaire, is very keen to take this further and discuss with you. Dean Holdsworth, the ex-football player, he's very keen to discuss this. It's because you know what it is as well. It's because you know, you're working class, you're proud of it, you're a trustworthy individual, you're doing something, you're buying properties, and I looked at the properties, they're nice, man, and it's a lot. I was looking at some of those developments thinking, I can imagine Thomas going in there, getting the hammer out, knocking down this wall. Are you quite hands-on yourself?
Yeah, I'm hands-on in terms of managing the team. I think my construction days are over, unfortunately, but I love the blood, sweat, and tears of transforming a project into an asset back into the community. That's very important.
Brilliant. And before I let you go, just to let you know, we met Thomas because he was invited by our member, billionaire John Caldwell in Monaco, and he happened to sit next to my colleague Mark, and that's how Thomas, joined the network. So it's like this. It was meant to be, and I know that you're also coming to Monaco. I'm sure you're going to enjoy our big event in January and the rally and everything. And I think I'm really looking forward to working with you. So Thomas, on that note, I'll let you go.
Thank you.
Move on to next presentations, and thank you very much. And again, thank you so much for being part of Don. And I'm really looking forward to meeting you in Monaco.
Okay, cheers. Thank you, Andy.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, Thomas. Bye.
Ivo, thank you so much for being patient. So I'm going to add your presentation. So I'll move on quickly. Let me just let everybody know we had a bit of a kick in the old schedule because we had some technical problems. So we just let everyone know we had to rejig the schedule. So some of you logging in may be thinking what's going on here. But our next presentation is, of course, Ivo Timmermans. He's the CEO of Pleco Therapeutics. I'm going to add your presentation.
Yes, please.
Slide, and you know what I'm going to do, Ivo? I'm going to do the best thing for you. I'm just going to come off the stage and hand it over to you. You're a seasoned professional. So over to you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Anthony. Yes, good morning. My name is Ivo Timmermans. I'm founder and CEO of Pleco Therapeutics, and we are a Dutch-based company, and we are developing drugs in the field of cancer. Let me start by saying the obvious, that there's a lot of challenge in cancer, and despite all our efforts in the last decades, still there are many cancers who avoid chemotherapy and who resist. And our products aim to reduce that chemo resistance and actually to reverse it in a number of cancers that are notoriously difficult to treat. Our products make the effect of chemotherapy better, and we use those as adjunctive therapy to chemotherapy. And our initial product is made for a specific blood cancer, which is called AML, and I'll tell more about it in a minute. And our product is already in the clinical development, and we have very strong evidence it works. Let us start by telling you something about the background of the study. It's clear to everybody that the whole chemical environment we live in has changed in the last 250 years, and a lot of it has been accelerated by the Industrial Revolution that caused changes. And if we look at human bodies, then over time they accumulate metals, and we know that metals are in a body, they stick to molecules, and they find it very difficult to leave. If we look at the content of lead, for instance, in bone marrow of modern men, then that is 100 times more concentrated, or 100 times higher than the concentration of lead in prehistoric men. And you can imagine that over time that causes an interference in biological systems, and it causes diseases in elderly patients. Now, it's unavoidable that we accumulate metals over time, and metals are found everywhere in the environment. You inhale lead if you walk on the streets, but also in food and in cosmetics, and a lot of tools we use there are cadmium, mercury, arsenic, and you call you name all the metals that are responsible for that. Now, what we know and also have proven in our lab is that the increased burden of metals that causes a resistance to chemotherapy and make chemo less effective. Now, our purpose is to add products to chemotherapeutic agents and make it better possible for the body to clear up tumor cells with the help of chemotherapy. Now, the concept that we work on was originally developed at MD Anderson Cancer Center. That's a large leukemic center in Houston, where people found and identified that relationship of heavy metals and long-term outcome. And they tried to rebalance metals by extracting very crudely toxic metals and supplying essential metals. And they used metals that are used for acute intoxications, so not really suited for cancer patients. But indeed, they have produced impressive results, and we see that there's a better response to chemotherapy in the patients who are treated that way. And also in the long-term outcome, the survival is significantly enhanced. Also, the quality of life for the cancer patients is better. There's less hospitalization, less co-medication. And these data, there are clinical studies that are still ongoing. And the data are available under an NDA. They're not published yet, so we have them in our possession, but we can't present them as such. Now, our product is our lead product. We selected product from a range of possible products. They show that the product is well tolerated in human beings, and we have chosen a lead compound that has the best properties to best characteristics to treat cancer. Also, if you develop a drug, you first study in mice, and we have confirmation that in mouse, if you give the drug in combination to chemotherapy, that you significantly affect the survival rates. For instance, in the right hand, you see that leukemic mice, you induce leukemia in the mouse. If you give them no treatment, they will typically last 3 or 4 weeks before they start to die. And if you treat them with chemotherapy, the survival time is about doubled. If you treat the mouse with chemotherapy and our product, then the survival time is enhanced to 3 times. So we see in an animal model what is a confirmation also of the clinical experience with the prototype. Now we are looking at certain cancers, and for the moment we have 2 cancers that we prioritize. One is acute myeloid leukemia, where we have a survival rate of less than 30% after 5 years. And the other cancer is small cell lung cancer, and that is an aggressive subtype of lung cancer, and even a worse survival rate over time. And we've also generated models, results in some other models, like in a pancreatic model. So in essence, we are developing a platform technology with promising prospects in a number of rare cancers. Now our products will reach the market, and we got a protection in the market in a number of ways. One of this is the patents that we have, and we have at the moment 3 patents. First of all is the patent of MD Anderson, explaining how chemo and chelators in cancers can be combined, and we have an exclusive global license to develop those products and to commercialize it. The second patent is of our own that describes chemo resistance and also the mode of action, the way the product works. And the third patent describes the preclinical model, where we mimic the metal accumulation that is in man, where we mimic that in animals. And this, it escaped my mind when I updated this. This patent was submitted in October, at the end of last month. Now, the second mode whereby we protect our product is that we aim for orphan designation. We filed with the FDA an application, and orphan gives you certain privileges and gives you exclusivity once you get to the market, and that is 7 years in the US and 10 years in Europe. And additional patents will follow soon. Now, this is the route of development. We have so far been busy with the preclinical development of our lead compounds and are now almost close with formulating the drugs. And the next year we will move into a clinical phase study in AML patients to start with, and a year later to be followed by clinical studies in particular type of lung cancer. So by the end of 2020, in the beginning of 2026, we have the first opportunity for strategic exit. We will have then data from our clinical studies, and we are then either going for trade sale or for a license agreement with a partner. So at the moment, we are raising 20 million to make sure that we reach that point whereby we can have a next deal. Now, the use of those 20 million is basically to secure materials and prepare dossiers, and also to appoint additional staff and grow the organization. And also what we like to do is progress the work in other indications like small cell lung cancer and pancreatic. And also with an additional 20 million, that would cover the cost of all of the first 2 indications, AML and small cell lung cancer. Now, was the revenues as expected? We expect to enter the market in 2026 for AML and 2028 for small cell lung cancer. And the sales will increase in the years to come when the product is taken up, and the accumulated sales in the year 2030 will exceed 500 million. Now, this is another way of looking at it. The valuation of the company will grow over time, and we expect that by the year 2026, when we make a deal, that the valuation is in excess of 500 million. This is what we have been doing, raising 20 million so far without the involvement of venture capital. And the current work has allowed, does include cell and animal work, and also support of the clinical studies at MD Anderson. We have a network of academic centers and contract research organizations, and have a pharmaceutical partner in company Hyloris. Now, lastly, I show you the team. We have a team of 10 people now, and they've all come from industries, a lot of experience in bringing products to the markets, and we have quite a lot of expertise and power in-house. So I'll leave you with the last slide. We got a unique concept, reducing chemoresistance. We got a good and exclusive position to take it to the market and protect it. And for the investor, we think there's an exceptional risk rewards. So thanks for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions you will have. I think you're on mute, Anthony. Oh.
Yeah, that's what happens. See, that's what happens when you get to my age. I leave the mute on. Before I introduce Stefan, I just wanted to ask you, Ivo, you mentioned before that some of your the 20 million you raised before you'd raised without going to VCs and that. Can I ask you again, what would going forward for Pleco Therapeutics, what is the ideal investor? Because by the sounds of it, some of your past investors are really high net worth and ultra high net worth. But what would be the ideal investor for Pleco Therapeutics going forward?
Yeah, I would say it's mainly we are looking in this round to high net worth individuals and to family offices to support us and bring us to the next round. And we also expect that we in the next 2 years are going to liaise with some pharma companies in terms of co-development. So we expect also additional funds to come in from that. But ideally, it would for next stage of 20 million, we would look into these segments. Yeah.
Well, again, thank you so much, Ivo, and I really appreciate your flexibility. Let me just quickly introduce you to Dr. Stefan Hauska before I move on. Morning.
Hi there.
Okay, thanks.
Brilliant. So I'll let you go, Ivo. Look forward to seeing you again in Monaco. And of course, just everyone know, we forward all the recordings to the networks, and we do send out all the communication so that people can follow up. So don't worry. As you know, Ivo, you've been here before. Thank you so much again. I really appreciate your flexibility on this, and looking forward to our ongoing cooperation. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you.
Bye, Stefan. Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye. Whew. Stefan, thanks. I'm getting, we're live, but everyone knows how we are. I'm getting pushed from either side. People want things to speed up. Some people are late. But again, thank you so much. I hand it over to you. Quick question. I know you're the head of sales and you're one of the key individuals. Tell us a bit about yourself, because it's quite an interesting your background. Tell us a bit about yourself before I lead it on, and you start talking about Quantum Rock.
Well, I've been in banking all my life, working in Boston, in Zurich, in Monaco as well. And now I'm based in Munich, actually working for a boutique asset manager for Quantum Rock. So what we do is we're always looking into new alpha sources. And through our platform, we came across gemstones. So at the moment, I'm selling gemstones. And that's quite interesting. And you may ask, why gemstones? What's so special about gemstones? Well, they've been around for decades, centuries, thousands of years. People have been investing into gemstones, especially colored gemstones, rubies, sapphires, and so on. So what we've created the first liquid listed product where you can invest into gemstones. And this is quite unique. And you can compare it to, you can invest in gold, like have that in your vault, or you can invest through an ETF. And following this concept, that's what we've set up. And so today I'd like to talk about our investment concept, what we've done. And in a nutshell, before I go through my presentation, because it's really easy to understand, what we do, we invest into rough gemstones. You can either invest into rough gemstones or polished gemstones. We have rough gemstones, and we invite you to join us. We're heavily invested ourselves, and take part in this value creation process from rough to polished, and then selling it wholesale. And within this process, you can get up to 50% per year as a return, which is quite compelling. So that's about it. Let's go through the slides quickly here. So what we have the first professionally investment grade and publicly traded gemstone investment product. This is the first of its kind, and it's something for investors who would want to invest into alternative assets, which is quite difficult nowadays. I really like the presenter before, investing into real estate, so that's something interesting. But if you look at from a strategic perspective, investing into equity, into treasury, real estate, gold, mining, and then another field could be gemstones as well. So what we have here is a listed certificate, fully backed, so it's an asset-backed security. The returns are quite compelling. The maturity is up to 24 months. So you would sign on today and then sell between 12 and 24 months. So everything's in the data room. That's pretty clear. So why did we launch this product? Well, it's obviously an ancient asset class. It has compelling returns. It's a great store of value, especially high quality gemstones, and that's what we've invested into. And the market outlook is excellent as well. If you look at the projections and at the pricing of colored gemstones in the past 30 years, you have an annual growth rate of up to 8%, and that's only the polished stones. With rough gemstones, the returns are even nicer. So what we have 125 million rough gemstones as a asset within our fund. So it's not that we're raising capital to invest into gemstones. We already have the gemstones, and we're using the capital to then turn from rough to polished and sell them off. And the overall target size or volume is 175 million. We've issued the certificates on the Luxembourg Stock Exchange like 4 weeks ago, and within this month we've already placed 75% of the capital that we need to or our target that's supposed to be raised. One of our managers on the board is actually the Deputy Prime Minister of Luxembourg. He found this so interesting that he wanted to join the show, so he's on our board as well, and we're happy to have him. Now, what are we investing in? The stock is, on the one hand, emeralds. Everyone knows emeralds, vibrant green color. You know, you can see them in every shopping window if you go to Tiffany's or wherever. So that's like the go-to colored gemstone. But then we also have alexandrites, 40 kilos of alexandrites. They're super special because of the optical phenomenon. During daylight, they're green, and in the evening with other light, they turn into a nice red color. So very interesting stock of gemstones, alexandrites, and emeralds. Overall, it's 70 kilos of emeralds and 45 kilos of alexandrites. well, they're certainly assessed, and we have a rigorous assessment of BDO and specialists, and taking the value of the stocks and so on. And one of the questions is where are they produced? They're not from Africa. They're from Brazil, because in Brazil you find the nicest emeralds, and especially alexandrites. And we're working together with a family office who's been in the business for decades. And the mines are state-owned mines, so you can if you look at the track from where the stones are today, you can track them back all the way to 2 mines in Brazil, state-owned, applying to any ESG standards, and they will be stored in Luxembourg and in Switzerland when they're finally polished and then sold off from there. So current location is Sao Paulo, and then in the next couple of months they'll be moved to Luxembourg and Switzerland. The net return is really something you want to look into. So depending on the size and the value and so on, you'll have a 2 to 3 multiple from rough to polished and then selling them off. And that turns into a 23 to 50% net return for the investors, for us as well, and whoever wants to join this. Quite similar to maybe to some private equity investments, except that our duration is between 12 and 24 months to turn around this whole thing and then sell them off. And as I said before, it's fully transparent and liquid. It's on Bloomberg, and you can follow the pricing day by day if you wish. Here's the ISIN of our rough gemstone 1 certificates, listed on the Luxembourg Stock Exchange, and you can either access information through the Luxembourg Stock Exchange or just type in the ISIN, and then there you go. If I then look into the information, sort of the core information, again, you have the ISIN. They were issued end of August, and the maturity will be 24-25. Assets under management, so we have a seed investment of 125 million, and the target size will be 175 million, and we'll close it there. Minimum investment is $125,000 US, and we have a wide range of investors. When we issued this at first, I would have expected family offices, either single or multi-family offices, to invest, and they do. But we also have high net worth individuals, ultra high net worth individuals, business angels who've made their money in other ways. And we also have pension funds who are investing and are looking into having their own lot of like 100 million in gemstones as well. So anyone can invest. Fees are what you would expect. It's 220, so servicing fee, management fee 2%, and performance fee 20% with a hurdle rate of 8. You can invest right away if you like, and yeah. So the key facts again. It's so seed funding has been taking place. We're already up to 75% now, but we also have a special pocket for our Dawn friends. So let us know if you're coming through Dawn. Send me an email, and we can then provide you with the subscription fee agreement. The returns are compelling. maturity max 24 months, and fully asset-backed. So that's about it, Anthony.
Thank you so
And what I would then, in the end, say, just send me an email or through you, Anthony, get access to this. I would say what I call it. It's a passion investment. Passion investment for two reasons. Number one, if you want to invest into something really cool and flashy, and you know, have something to talk about at the Monaco Yacht Club, then you want to invest into gemstones. And on the other hand, if you're interested in a passion that is of high returns, then it's gemstones as well. So for me, it's a passion investment, although I tend to be passionate about the returns. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Stefan. And again, thank you so much for being flexible and understanding the time restraints. And of course, we will follow up. Yep, without a doubt, the sexiest product we have within the network at the moment. And
Yeah.
And I'm really glad to work with you guys. And I hope that your roundtables, and I hope we can help maybe the roundtable for you in Monaco. And again, it's a real pleasure to have something like this in the opportunities. It gives us a, I don't know, it has that Don feeling. You know? I'm not saying that the healthcare opportunities and biotech, of course they do, but
yeah, I agree.
Monaco loves this.
Yeah.
It's really great.
And we actually have investors. They want to see the product, and we tell them, no problem. So we had investors flying into with bringing their appraiser to Brazil, to Sao Paulo last week. You open the vault and you have these, I mean, these gemstones, you know, like take them in your hand and it does something to you. So it is definitely a passion investment.
Brilliant. Stefan, thank you so much. Thank you again from Quantum Rock. Looking forward to carrying working with you. Thank you so much, and have a good day. Brilliant. Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye. Olga, thank you for the patience. I know we were testing your patience. So let me hand it over to you. So let me introduce everyone. So this is the last presentation, everyone. Let me introduce you, get all the right information so I don't get it wrong. So let me introduce you to Holger Friedrich. He's the Chief Executive Officer at AquaHeart. So over to yourself. Over to you, Holger.
Okay, thank you, Anthony. It is a great experience to be here, and I will try to share my screen here. Hopefully that works. Do you see my screen, Anthony?
Not yet.
Anthony,
so
can you?
What you do?
Okay.
No, I can't. No. So try to go to where it says share screen. There should be a button.
It says presentation here, and then what is this here? Okay. So maybe now you see something.
Yep, there it is.
Can you see that now?
Yes, I got it, Holger. You're up and live.
Okay. I'm glad we're over the first hump. Okay, so hello everybody. It's getting to high noon, and I would like to introduce you to our company AquaHeart. We are trying to democratize the heart ablation. That is a very special procedure for patients with a heart rhythm disease, and I will get into more details in a minute. We have so far developed our system based on a $7 million investment into the company, and we are now getting ready for the first in human treatments. And for that, we are trying to raise a 15 million Series A My name is Holger Friedrich. I'm the CEO and a co-founder of the company. Now, let me get you a little bit into the backgrounds of what we are doing. As everybody knows, worldwide, there's a growing number of people that are above 65, and they develop a heart rhythm disorder, which is called atrial fibrillation. This is the number one reason for stroke, and that's why it's not only a disease that is limiting to quality of life, it is also a dangerous and life-shortening disease. There is a curative treatment, which is interventional, and it is expensive. Only selective hospitals can offer this. The drug treatment that is applied most of the times is not curative. So as a consequence, only 1 to 2% of all these patients that suffer from that problem, and I will get into the numbers in a minute, are treated curatively. So stroke cases and related human and financial costs are rising on this in this context. So now, why don't I get the next slide here? Here's the next slide. So we have developed, based on the existing interventional therapies, we have developed a very simple, safe, and fast device that is specialized for what the scientists call the first-line treatment, and it's the vision of Aqua Hearts to treat many more patients in need in the future with our system, leading to a significantly increased market opportunity from a producer standpoint, but also, of course, to a higher number of treated patients. And as I said, there is a ablation market already with more complicated devices, and there have been comparably disruptive therapies that have been picked up by one or two of the strategic global companies, and the exit amounts are always very healthy. So that is our preferred route into profitable investments for our shareholders being exited, and typically time for this exit would be after the first human study that is in our case not so far away. As I said, there is a market already, and already the healthcare systems are spending $8 billion in this so-called heart ablation market. 25% of these $8 billion are at a closer look in the specialized targeted market niche that we are approaching. As I said, they are only treating 1 to 2% of the patients available, and we believe we can really expand that treatment. We can not only with our simple and more accessible treatment, with a faster treatment, we can grow the market size, we believe, but we can also grow the market share of our niche. So we believe we have a target market which is way beyond the $2 billion that is already existing. Let me just spend a few words on the problem that we're trying to attack. Atrial fibrillation is an uncoordinated beating of the atria of the heart. As I said, about 100 million people, or probably more, are affected in the Western world. And if you look into the more emerging markets in Asia, China, India, then you can imagine that there are way more people, especially since these countries are rapidly getting into the higher age groups. Our mission is to bridge this gap from the only very small number of patients being treated with our therapy, which is now considered to be the first-line therapy. In the last few years, the scientists have really looked at what has been done with these patients. Traditionally, the patients are treated with antiarrhythmic drugs. That is not curative, and that is actually limiting for life, quality of life, but also for lifetime. and it has been shown that the therapy we are offering, it's called, just so you've heard it once, the pulmonary vein isolation, is a therapy which really improves not only the quality of life but also the life expectancy. So we are trying to do this with a very simple procedure, without going too much into the weeds of this. Cardiologists are used to place balloon catheters over so-called guide wires. This is what we are proposing here. The traditional procedure is a very way more complicated procedure that is requiring a so-called 3D electrical mapping. So you need an engineer in the hospital, in the lab. You need specialized computerized systems that are capable of putting together the signals from the inside of the heart, create an electrical map. We don't need all of that. We can not only do it more simple, requiring less resources in the hospital. Our procedure will also be done for one patient, probably in a total procedure time of about 30 minutes, whereas the existing procedure can easily last 2 to 3 hours, which is certainly limiting for the treatment of that disease. And that's why you have this relatively low numbers of patients being treated. If you look at the patient's journey now and what we believe then now we have the diagnosis of the atrial fibrillation, nowadays supported by smart devices like the Apple Watch or so. People more often get aware that they have atrial fibrillation. The symptoms sometimes are not as strong that the patients go to the doctor immediately. So the Apple Watch is maybe the first one that says you have an atrial fibrillation. And you have already the higher risk, but typically what you get from your GP or from a private cardiologist is beta blockers, antiarrhythmic drugs. You have a decrease of quality of life, and of course, then over time, more and more episodes come up. You have a reduction of your cardiac function. You have a higher risk of stroke, and maybe after 5 to 8 years, the cardiologist say, let's see if we can do an ablation. So that's the typical patient journey today. What we believe, or what we are suggesting for the future, is let's the first diagnosis of atrial fibrillation, let's do this ablation as interventional cardiologists and electrophysiologists are suggesting already, and the guidelines will be adapted probably within the next 1 or 2 years towards this direction. With our easy device, this is a very safe, very quick, very easy process, and that's the power of early pulmonary vein isolation. And that's, of course, the opportunity for us. So the patient cuts this long journey short, increases his or decreases his risk for stroke, increases his quality of life. All the other details I'm happy to share with you in more details discussions or in one-to-one calls. Let me introduce to you my team, and again, I want to keep it on the short side. I'm very proud that probably one of the most experienced industry persons in the world in that area has decided to be our chairman. Eric Fain has been the group president for St. Jude Medical, one of the companies that has really in the last 40 years driven this therapy to where it is today. And when he looked at our technology, he said, okay, this is interesting. I believe that we have something great in your hands, and I will be your chairman. VK Sharma is my co-founder, and then Andrea Biffi is our lead investor so far, a gentleman from Italy. We have our team in the US. We have also contract engineering, contract manufacturing partners in the US for both the catheter and the generator system that is necessary to basically manage this catheter. For the doctor, it's all very simple. For us, it is a lot of development work, but once this system is up and running, it will be a very smart and cool system for the doctors to use. We also put together a very prominent advisory board with especially spearheaded by the two gentlemen in the upper pictures, Professor from New York and Professor Peter Neudel from Prague. They are probably right now amongst the 20 most prominent physicians in this particular space and dealing with latest technologies. They have been very good for us to support this therapy and to drive it to the place where we are. Now, for the investment and opportunity, as I said, we are raising a Series A of $15 million. We will use that money for further development, development testing, design verification testing, product build for clinical trial, the financing of the first in human study with about 30 patients to start with, operating costs, and then in preparation of the regulatory studies that will get us the FDA and CE for the device. So, as I said, the strategic partners that are in this business, there are 4 big ones, all very well known: Medtronic, Abbott, Johnson & Johnson, Boston Scientific, and then there might be a handful of, let's say, second-tier strategics. All these companies need new technology, and they will start to look at. We are in constant communication with these companies. They are well aware of what we're doing. And they say, give us human data, and we will take a closer look. So that is what we're trying to do. We believe that we can do that within the next 18 months. And if you really look at the development of that particular cardiac therapy that has been started in the 80s, we believe that AquaHeart, for being the first-line therapy for this early detected atrial fibrillation, is a new level of that technology, and we're very proud that we will be on the forefront of that development. The exit roadmap, as I said, include then the EU approval study or the US IDE study. We also are already talking to potential Chinese partners. As I said, everywhere where the population is growing beyond the 65 and significant numbers is a need for that kind of therapy. And we believe that we don't have to run these IDE and CE approval studies anymore, that we will do that together with the partner. So this is basically our pitch to make a patient easy, and we believe that for investors this could be a great opportunity to go the last let's say 18 months with us and turn around into a very attractive exit. Thank you, Anthony. I think this is it. I'm not sure how I get out of this here.
Don't worry. That's a good. How do I get out? It's a good one. Don't worry. I'll let you out, Holger. I just want to say thank you very much, Holger. Thank you very much. I'll let you go, Holger. Thank you very much.
Do I still share? I share probably 15 of these screens, right? So everybody who hasn't seen the presentation yet gets the full picture now.
Gets the full picture now. No worries. Holger, I'll let you go. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, thank you, guys. So let me just quickly say, as we finish off, let me thank all the Dons. So let me thank High Labs, Dominic Whiterose, Concarlo Therapeutics, Stacey Blaine, APG Capital, Thomas Muir, John Ashley, Axis Surgical, Pleco Therapeutics, Ivo Timmermans, Quantum Rock, Dr. Stefan Hauska, and of course, the legendary now, Holger Friedrich, from Aquaheart. Thank you very much, all of you, for being at our virtual event. I hope it's been informative, and thank you very much. Take care. Bye.